So, the most important thing to consider when we get to both the end of this book and looking forward into what we're looking at next week is that we are going to start talking about Dadaism art. We're taking a little bit of a break from literature for a moment. We are going to be reading the very important parts of selections from the Myth of Sisyphus, of course, but we are going to be going both back in time but forward in the class, and talking about what it means for a class like this to connect with society that it's talking about, right? Part of the discipline that we are looking at here in the 320 class, that we're proceeding from the 120 class to the 220 class to the 320 class, is we are looking at how, right, ideas and important things in a culture translate to how the culture has a worldview, how the worldview of a culture um, adapts in a period, right? Other classes in this series, right, include things like pandemics and plagues, and looking at American popular music and things like that. So, what does Dada surrealism and some of this absurdist stuff that we've been looking at have to do with culture and with the society itself? Well, we're going to be looking at that next week, and um, I want to sort of take a step back towards the book for just a moment in mentioning that certainly a pandemic, a plague, has a major effect on a society, right? We all know, having gone through the pandemic, that things are not at all the way that they were before the pandemic, right? We've let certain genies out of boxes we can't put back in now, right? We've had discussions about vaccines and about health that have fundamentally changed the way that we talk with each other, and that fundamentally have changed the way that people relate to each other. Right now, more than ever, there is a great deal of argument about the place of mandates and vaccines, and so one thing that we can connect that to in French culture is that Dadaism, Surrealism, existentialism, absurdism are outgrowths from the culture itself. France, at the time that existentialism and absurdism are starting to become buzzwords, is going through the second, right, of its world wars, right? The very first one taking place in the 19 teens, and then this one taking place in the late 1930s, early 1940s, right? World War II. And what we know is that a war, especially a war like World War One, which was unlike any conflict anybody had ever seen, the idea of trench warfare being completely new and completely horrifying to many people when they found out sort of what it was, this idea that, war had been noble and now suddenly people just rot in trenches, was fundamentally altering for a great deal of the society, and most notably artists. And so when we look at, right, the plague as a book, we can see how people are fundamentally changed by having gone through something like that. And so when we look at Dada and Surrealism, we are looking at this outgrowth from World War One into what will eventually become, right, absurdist thought, right? Absolutely will become absurdist thought, in that we start to question what it is that we expect and what it is that we're getting, right? The fundamental idea behind absurdism, it really is, as Camus talks about, the divorce between what we are longing for in life, what we are expecting out of life, what we feel we have been promised, and what we expect an outcome to be logically for what we are doing in life, and then the things that actually do happen, right? That are unexpected, that are uncontrollable, that feel as if they are very much, outside of what we can do, right, and can deal with sometimes. So, um, when we think about how we are going to react to the plague, how we are going to move forward into surrealism, they are going to be very similar, right? We are going to be looking at, right, both with an eye for trying to figure out how we as a society would have reacted, perhaps, right, ourselves personally, but looking at the very real reaction that people did have to war, tragedy. Um, you know, what the questions about what is art, right? What is an artist's role? What are an artist's responsibilities? Does an artist have an obligation towards his or her audience, right? This is going to be, right, an important part of what we're looking at going forward. So, I do, want to give you just very quickly, right, my sort of thoughts at the moment, right, moving forward into the semester, right. I would love for you as a group to let me know, right. Does this feel like it's going fast, slow? Feel like it's the right speed, right? Because you know, going through a book in 2 weeks, I feel like is a good pace for us, right? Eventually, we will, continue that pace for right. We'll have one particular, time period when we have maybe a little bit less time because it's a little bit of a shorter, thing to look at. But overall, I'm hoping this speed goes pretty well. It's not too early to begin thinking about the midterms, right? Consider the fact that we've got midterms coming up, not too far in the future, and that when we get there, right, the important thing is going to be, can you reflect, right, on what you've read? Can you reflect on the theories and the philosophies that we've looked at, right? If there are, in any way, shape, or form, questions that you've still got about what is existentialism, what is Kierkegaardian existentialism, and at the end of next week, right, and moving forward, you're still having a lot of fundamental questions about what is the absurd, we will want to address that before you get to the midterm, of course, but there you go. So, I will wrap it up now, right, put a little bow on it, and I will say that, remember, next week we're going to be having two separate sort of things that we're looking at. We're looking at both the myth of Sisyphus and we're looking at Dadaism. And so there will be a couple film clips to watch. There will also be some things to read. So next week is going to be a busy one. So be ready for it. Things should be posted pretty soon. So see ya.